So, fishtails. Fucking fishtails. You guys ever had a poi move that you just looked at it and you automatically knew that the effort that it would take to learn it, to master the basics of it and get it so that it would even be like halfway usable, was going to be such a steep slope that you were just like, fuck that. That is what fishtails have been for me for the past year. Every time a video came up where somebody was showing one off, I was just kind of like, you know, oh, well, those are some cool tricks, but God in heaven, no, not me. And then Kate put out her video on fishtails in which she did the absolute most batshit crazy awesome tech with them I have ever seen. And then it became inevitable that I was going to have to sit down and learn them. Thank you, Kate. I'm only saying that half facetiously. So yeah. Then it became time to actually buckle down and see how they're done. I should note, I haven't looked at anybody else's tutorial videos on how to do this. I, much like most of the time when I'm learning a trick, sat down and tried to break it up into increments to make it easier for myself to process and then work through it, right? So here's how that process worked. And first and foremost, a description of what a fishtail is. A fishtail is a type of contact poi move. And it's not the type of move where you engage a roll that transfers the poi to a different part of your body. No, no. It is a contact move wherein you're trying to essentially make, you're trying to essentially make a 2-beat weave happen, right? Except that it's a 2-beat weave in which the head is balanced on the back of your hand and the only motion comes from the tether, right? Now this makes it a huge, huge challenge, especially for those of us who are using contact poi, because the orientation of the head has to change in your hand in such a way that it has some freedom of movement, but not enough that it can get out of your hand. This balance is crazy difficult to achieve. Here is how I got to it. First and foremost, I experimented around with finding what contact position would yield the easiest transitions back and forth, right? I am used to, 9 times out of 10 when I'm doing contact poi, using this position right here, wherein the poi tether is basically going between my first 2 fingers, my index and middle finger, right? And of course, you know, this is the position that I use when I'm doing all my contact rolls and the like. In the grand scheme of things, I really only have these 2 fingers engaged. So if I wanted to, I could just as easily do all my contact tricks with my other fingers disengaged, although it does slightly change the orientation of my hand. It would probably take a little bit of adjustment time, but nonetheless, doable. Now, fishtails are a different beast entirely because you need the tether to be able to be free to move on either side of your hand. Now this meant I switched back to the original position that I used to use for contact juggling and contact poi, which was having my index finger and my pinky out for stability, and my, my middle finger and my ring finger slightly lowered to create a little bit of a cradle for the poi to rest in, right? I quickly found that the best way to do this, especially when switching back and forth, was to adopt a position in which the poi tether would be essentially just kind of barely hanging off the edge of the hand of the finger closest to that side. So on this side, it's my index finger, and on this side is my pinky, right? That is the happy place for that tether to be. When it came time to actually move the bastard, I decided to break it up into manageable increments for myself. First and foremost, because I really needed to teach myself how to be comfortable using my hand in this kind of articulation again. So the first step for me was to get used to having just a pendulum and then build up enough momentum on the pendulum to switch which side of my hand the tether was hanging on, right? You can see that from the front here, where we've got switch sides and switch sides, and you'll note every time I'm switching up, and I don't know if you guys can see this from the camera, but the poi ball is slipping in my hand just enough to be able to change orientations, but not enough to actually leave my hand, because if it leaves my hand, then the direction of it is going to be controlled by the tether rather than my hand itself. And that is when bad things happen. That's when it no longer becomes a fishtail and it becomes a, oh shit, it's a toss now. Yeah, so pendulum to one side, pendulum to the other side, right? Back and forth. I have been doing this so bloody much in the past 2 weeks, I cannot even tell you. But the good news is that it has taught me a lot about which positions are stable, which positions are unstable, and how to move between one and the other, right? So the next stage was to actually get a continuous motion. And once again, I built it up in increments. So in this case, the poi tether is on the left side of my body. I tried to build it up to go left, right, and then back to left, right? Or just back to left, correct. The other option, of course, was to start it on the right-hand side, or at least get over to a pendulum on the right side, and try and go left, and then back to right, which wound up being hella much harder. I don't know why this is, but on the left side, it feels very much like I'm putting energy into it, and on the right side, it feels very much like there's a very delicate balancing act, where the difference between catching it in a pendulum and actually getting it to swing all the way back to the left side is so infinitesimally small, I almost always miss that mark. So yeah, it feels like the momentum comes on the left side, and then the right side is doing its best to kind of catch it out of that momentum and make sure that it doesn't go flying. I don't know if that's true for other people who've learned this move, but it was certainly true for me. And yeah, at that point, literally, it was just practice, 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 until I had something that I thought was usable to put in video, which now I do. Needless to say, there is a shit ton more work that I got to put into this move. A, to make it stable, B, to make it sustainable, and C, to be able to add anything to it. But, at the very least, I can say I know how to do a fishtail now. Huzzah. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you're all having a great week, and I will see you real soon. Peace.